Hey guys, Attic PC Guy here, and I thought I would go over some of the news in tech and gaming over the last few days. It's been now roughly a week since the Radeon 7 launched. It was plagued by horrible driver issues, which, while fixed in some manner, are not completely fixed yet, as far as I know. I have not tried anything because I do not own the Radeon 7, but I have not seen many reports saying everything was fine and dandy. So yeah, the Radeon 7 was not the successful launch that we hoped, even though the specs seem to perform up to what they should. The drivers are still an issue. Another issue with the Radeon 7 is that the availability was extremely low, with some regions and some sellers like Amazon, etc., and others having less than at most 100 units for sale for an entire region, which is absolutely too little. No matter how little they were expecting to sell, 100 cards for a region is nothing really. If you consider how many people out there use platforms like that to buy hardware, it's really not much. So availability is extremely limited right now. When the cards launched, they sold out within 10 minutes of them actually launching. Uh, Obviously there was some demand, but it was driven not so much by the crazy demand, which there was some of, but it was mostly by the lack of availability and not enough cards available to purchase. Now, I have seen reports from other media outlets that sellers are probably going to be getting new shipments of the cards at the end of February, start of March. Overclockers in particular reported that they're expecting to get 1,000 units in that time frame. So 1,000 units for one retailer, so that should mean that the cards will be more widely available than 100 per region. While that's a bit late, considering it already launched now, that's nice, but it remains to be seen if AMD can actually deliver on those expected numbers of products. Still on the topic of AMD and their graphics cards, there have been some rumors and reports that the Navi GPUs are being delayed again, this time to October 2019, so towards the end of this year. It remains to be seen if it's going to be the last delay that we'll see, or if it will be delayed again at some other later date. But it's kind of disheartening for all of us that were kind of crossing our fingers for this to be a successful launch that would be, soon-ish. It's kind of disappointing to see it delayed again, but we'll have to wait and see and hope that it is a graphics card that is worth the wait. Although, looking at the launch from Radeon 7, it kind of casts some doubt on their ability to make a smooth launch of a quality product. We still hope that it is a quality product that is worth perhaps investing in, but we shall wait and see because, well, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. But the performance is there on the Radeon 7, and we can only hope that the performance will also be there on the Navi and that it will be even better. On the other hand, we didn't really expect to get the Radeon 7 at all. It was a completely unannounced surprise. So, there's that. I'm not sure how much preparation actually went into that. So hopefully it will be different for Navi, and hopefully it will perform to the specs just like the Radeon 7 does, but hopefully without the driver issues that we have been seeing with the Radeon 7. Still on the topic of graphics card, the stocks from Nvidia have been dropping even more lately. They have been under heavier and heavier fire because of basically not having as much profits as they were supposed to. I don't have the numbers in mind, but it was a several hundred million, I believe, difference from what they were predicting to have. So they are a bit under a bit of fire from their investors, with some investors actually backing out. And yeah, it's not going all sunshine and roses at Nvidia, which, as a personal opinion, they blame the Chinese market for slowing down and the lack of demand from the crypto mining. But while those are factors, another factor is the less than successful launch of the RTX line that is not selling that great. Now, as you might have noticed, me rambling on about RTX and the RTX line and other videos, I think that the pricing is a big factor in that. I think they are grossly overpriced. for the performance they deliver, and also the performance boost is not that crazy compared to previous generation jumps. So while they are amazing graphics cards, I think they are way overpriced, and a lot of people probably think the same, and that might be a good explanation of why they are performing a bit worse on the sales department. Still on the topic of Nvidia, apparently the rumor that's been circulating about the GTX, what was the name again? It's a very strange name, strange naming convention, but the GTX 1660, which is supposed to be the successor of the GTX 1060, is more than a rumor and is going to be an actual product that will be probably launched really soon. I've seen rumors circulating between the 22nd and the 30th of February, so that's less than a week to 2 weeks from now. Um, it is also rumored that, keep in mind, there are no official pricings or specs yet. It's all leaks and rumors, but it is seems to be more and more likely that it is a real thing. It seems to be expected to be priced at about the 250 to $300 per graphics card, which is a good price for an entry level GPU. Uh, and we shall see how it performs performance wise. It's supposed to be kind of a stripped down RTX 2060 with the same ish performance, but lacking the RTX cores and the Tensor cores for the actually the Tensor core for the LSS. It's not confirmed yet if it'll have it or not, but we are guessing that it won't because that's kind of also a staple of the RTX line. So we'll see. Now we shall see how that card performs in comparison to the 2060, as well as to in comparison to the previous generation's 1060 and for example 1070, and we shall see what the price what the value is on that card for that price, if it's a good performance upgrade or not, or if it's a bit overpriced like the rest of the RTX line was. Let's hope it's a good option for the mid-level builds and the beginner level builds out there, because that level is seriously lacking right now. The last topic for today is not so much on the field of tech, but on the field of gaming and gaming companies. More specifically, Activision Blizzard. There have been also rumors. Again, there's a lot of rumors all the time around everything, but the rumors were gaining strength for the past few weeks about likely layoffs at Activision Blizzard. And it actually went through this week. About 800 people were terminated, mostly on non-game developer positions, things like tech support, Q&A, that sort of thing, were the most affected. And while it's never great once things like that happens, it's particularly bitter in this case. Uh, and maybe I'm a bit biased here because I am a very regular player of Blizzard games, and it seems to me that it was not really done in a correct way. A few months back, there was talk of people actually being offered the chance to voluntarily leave for a compensation. So that's a bit more correct, I guess. It's never ideal when something like that has to happen, but at least there's a voluntary agreement. This time it was not. It was more of a you're fired kind of thing for those 800 people, and it was handled in a very yeah impersonal, I guess, kind of way. That there are reports of people actually going to work not knowing if they were going to be fired or not on that day. It was basically also reports of other Blizzard employees that came forward and they did some talk to some other press outlets, that they were walking around the office and everyone was just with their monitors open on LinkedIn pages, for example, already kind of looking for alternatives, because no one really knew where the axe was going to fall, and everyone was kind of in limbo. And at the end of the day, it was around 8 to 10% of the workforce that was just let go like that. So that's kind of massive, really. Um, Now, the reason for that to happen, it's something that a lot of us in the gaming side of things have been kind of noticing for a while, which is the loss of say of the actual game developers and the people that make the games that we love and then make them great. They get less and less say, and basically the marketing people are doing all the decisions, and it's become more of a financial company than an actual gaming company. The people that actually care if their game is going to be good and if people are going to like it, and that treat it as a form of art and entertainment, and that they want people to like it and they want to do their best to make a great game. Those people are getting less and less influence, and it's becoming more and more about the numbers and about how much profit you can bring in. And that is one of the reasons why Activision, in particular, EA is very infamous for this sort of thing. Activision is also very infamous for putting quality second to the profit, and Activision being paired with Blizzard a bit. Uh, Officially, they are two separate entities, but Activision is gaining more and more ground in Blizzard, and over the past year or two, the people that made Blizzard great are slowly but surely being pushed out, and it's not really getting better, the environment there, from what I can gather. And basically, the argument was that Blizzard is launching too little new games at a too slow pace. Now, Blizzard's policy has always been we'll launch it when it's ready. And for those of you that have been playing World of Warcraft, you could possibly argue that in the last few years they have rushed with releases a bit sometimes, and then again, players kind of demand that as well. But they have rushed with the expansion releases and patch releases before they were, completely polished, and that's something that didn't happen before. And that sort of policy of taking your time to make a great game, it's what made Blizzard great in the first place. So sure, they might be throwing out more games from now on if Activision gets their way, but will they be the same quality? Will they bring the same revenue as the old games used to? That's kind of doubtful. They might bring new games, but if it's going to be the same story as Call of Duty launching a new game every year, and it's basically the same game just reskinned and with a new weapon or whatever, then what's the point? And no offense to any Call of Duty fans out there, no offense to any other people with what I'm about to say, but it's the same story with games like FIFA, Pro Evolution Soccer, NBA. I personally, this is a personal opinion. I don't see the appeal in buying the same game every year. And then the changes are basically that this player now is on the other team instead of being on this team. And I know that once in a while there's innovations and new game modes and all that, but generally speaking, it's basically the same game. And the same applies for Call of Duty. Uh, if you can compare Call of Duty to, I don't know, Fortnite or Team Fortress, they're different styles of a shooter. If you compare a Call of Duty to the other Call of Duty, what's the difference? And we're getting a Call of Duty per year. So is quantity really better than quality? Sure, it might sell up to a certain point, and at a certain point, people are going to be like, hey, whatever. And you might agree or disagree with the current state of, for example, World of Warcraft, but you cannot argue that it is a game that has been going on for how much now? 15 years ish. And sure, it might be far from its glory days when it had around 10 million or more subscribers per month playing steady. It might be lower now. There's no steady numbers, but let's say it has at least like 2 million for sure, perhaps more, probably more. Uh, it's still a very, very great amount. How many games out there would kill to have that amount of players paying on a subscription? How many games out there would kill to have 2 million games sold? Even subscription aside and microtransaction shop aside, which is only cosmetic stuff anyway. Uh, so yeah, it's not that they were not making a profit, they were making plenty of profit, I am quite sure. They were just not making enough to meet the Activision's quotas or whatever they were. So it's kind of sad to see a previously great developing company going like this route, but it is what it is, and these days in bigger companies, that's how it goes. The numbers are law, and the people that actually raised the company up and made it what it is don't really have a lot of say anymore, and they are not free to steer it in the direction that they want and to make sure that their standards and values are upheld. So it is kind of a sad event for the gaming communities, not just Blizzard's fans, but gaming in general, because it seems to be a widespread thing these days. And we can only hope that other companies will take up the mantle of producing great games for the sake of producing great games and not for the sake of money. There are some really good studios out there still. Some of them have been really getting some steam the past few years. Um, CD Projekt Red, for example, that's a perfect example of a small studio that made it, and they made it by making amazing games and not gouging people's eyes out with $20 DLCs that give you a new suit. Their $20 DLC was basically an entire game. And that's how things used to be back in the day, because I'm 50 now or 60 clearly. But that is how things used to be a bit more in the past, and that's the mark of a great studio. Now, Blizzard was also a great studio. It still is, but it's looking shady up ahead. We can only hope that those small studios that are breaking out and becoming their own big thing, that they don't follow the same path, but the future will tell. Now, this has been Attic PC Guy. I thought I would just make a little, not so little by now. I'm kind of looking at the recording time. I rambled again, as per usual. I just thought I would make a little update on what's been going on in the tech and gaming world lately, and I will see you next time.